Welcome to IGCSE Bob. Today the subject is history. The topic will be from USSR's control over Eastern Europe, and the focus point will be what was the significance of solidarity in Poland for the decline of Soviet influence in Eastern Europe. How significant was solidarity? Throughout the years of communist control of Poland, there were regular protests. However, like the protests in Hungary and Czechoslovakia, they tended to be about wages or food prices. In 1956, then again 1970, such protests earned Polish workers increased wages, reduced prices, or both. In these protests, they did not try to get rid of government or challenge the Soviet Union. They simply wanted to improve their living standard. The workers were keenly aware that they lagged behind workers in the West. The government, for its part, seemed aware that it would only survive if it satisfied the Poles' demand for consumer goods. During the first half of the 1970s, Polish industry performed well. Most Poles became better off and were finding it easier to buy what they wanted. In a survey, 1975, 60% expected their standard of living to rise still further in these future years. They were genuinely optimistic and seemed happy with the kind of communist state that had evolved in Poland. But in the late 1970s, the Polish economy hit a crisis. 1976 was a bad year. 1979 was the worst year for Polish industry since communism had been introduced. The government seemed to have no new ideas about how to solve Poland's problems, just more propaganda. Workers' patients were sorely tired by the government's propaganda, telling them how well Poland was performing when clearly it wasn't. In most communist countries, there were official trade unions, but they were ineffective. In the late 1970s, Polish workers became involved in setting up small independent trade unions. In the summer of 1980, strikes broke out all over the country. Over the next 6 months, Solidarity, a new trade union, went from strength to strength. So to summarize this, Solidarity was never intended to overthrow the Soviet Union. It only wanted a better living standard. Well, it was working really well before, but afterwards, everyone was getting angry at how bad the economy was and how their standard of living was falling. So they decided to have strikes, and they formed a new trade union, which caused the uprising of Solidarity. Here is the timeline of events. 1980, July. The government announced increases in the price of meat. Strikes followed. August, workers in a shipyard, led by Lech Walesa, put forward a 21st demand for the government, including free trade unions and the right to strike. It also started free trade unions called Solidarity. So Solidarity is a trade union, and they were growing so strong that they were able to demand things from the government. In August, the government agreed to all 21st of Solidarity's demands. September, Solidarity's membership grew to 3.5 million, so that's a lot of people. In October, Solidarity's membership was 7 million. So just in a few months, it increased by 4 million. Solidarity was officially recognized by the government. It was growing so strong, too strong. And in January, the membership of Solidarity reached its peak at 9.4 million, more than a third of all the workers in Poland, and this severely threatened the government, and they did not like it. Why did the Polish government agree to Solidarity's demand in 1980? In the light of all you know about communist rule of Eastern Europe, you might be surprised that the government gave in to Solidarity in 1980. There are many different reasons for this. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 reasons. Okay, let me tell you about it. The union was strongest in those industries that were most important to the government: shipbuilding and heavy industry. Membership was particularly high amongst skilled workers and foremen. The general strike in these industries would have devastated Poland's economy. 2. In the early stages of the Union, was not seen by the members as an alternative to the Communist Party. More than 1 million members of the Communist Party joined Solidarity. People joined Solidarity simply because they thought that it would make things better in Poland. 3. Lech Walesa was very careful with his negotiations with the government. Before this, let's introduce who is in fact Lech Walesa. His father was a farmer, and he, like many of his fellow pupils in school, he went to work in shipyards in Gdansk. He became an electrician. He led shipyard workers to join the strike against price rises. He was then sacked, but he organized a union at another factory. He was dismissed again. And then he led strikes again in the shipyard in 1980. With others, he set up Solidarity in August 1980 and became its leader. He was a committed Catholic and had massive support from the Polish people from overseas. He became a symbol of Eastern Europe's struggle against communist repression. He won the Nobel Prize in 1983. To continue with the point, Walesa was very careful because he did not want the tax to come in, so he was really cautious about everything he was doing. Solidarity was also very popular. More than 95% of the Poles said they trusted Solidarity. Even people from the Communist Party joined it. It also had the support of the Catholic Church. This is because, we all know that communism is anti-religious, but the religion in Poland was so strong that our government always had to compromise with the church. And almost all the Poles were Catholic. And they had this rule between the government and the church, is that if you don't interfere with us, we won't interfere with you. So the government dared not to confront the Catholic Church. And lastly, the USSR did not want Poland to ask for help from the West, just like in Hungary or Czechoslovakia. They did not like it. They did not want them to lose power again. And I think this should be the first half of the video. In the next video, I will continue talking about the clampdown. Why did the Polish government clamp down on Solidarity in December 1981, and the aftermath. So please watch out for the next video. If you have any questions, leave a comment and contact me. And this is IGCSE Bob signing off.